Hey guys, I wanted to do a very quick video on scripting in CAMduct. Now CAMduct is a fabrication product used for MEP fabrication parts. We do it all in Revit. So typically I export something in Revit, MEP fabrication parts, and then I do the sort of processing in CAMduct. Part of that process involves scripting. Now this is incredibly useful. It speeds everything up. It makes it automatic. We wouldn't function very well if it wasn't without this scripting engine that they call it, I believe. It's basically like VB.net. It's pretty limited if you need to do more complex stuff, but it's really easy just if you need to process a bunch of information and just automate certain things that you have to have on your fabrication parts once it gets to the shop. So here is the script editor. It stays on top of window. It doesn't go behind it. Now this is just a sample job that I have. I've got a bunch of straights. I've got an end cap. Typically before I automate anything, I use this debug function. And by the way, the rem, R-E-M, is the comments. So I just keep a bunch of reference stuff up here for later if I need to use it in a scripting file. But I use, when I'm starting out, I like to use the debug. I guess it's a function because I want to see what I'm looking at. Now you have to click on what you want the script to run on. It doesn't automatically run on everything. You have to select it. Okay, so I just want to see the item.number. So the item is looking at the item, and then you're saying .number, so you're pointing to item number. Alright, 10. So as you can see, it's showing me item number is 10. Great. Now, I want to see the size. So I'm doing debug again to do that message.show basically is what it is. Debug item, so I'm looking at the item. Dim is dimension. And I want to look at the width.value. So I want to see the value of the width of this item. And of course you have the depth that we can look at as well. So let's do this end cap, it's just called cap. And you can see 24 by 16. So here's the execute button. So it's running the first debug, item.width, which is 24, correct. Item.16, correct. So I do this every time because I want to make sure I'm referencing the right thing. Sometimes you'll leave stuff off and you'll be referencing the memory location, and that will obviously completely mess you up if you want to change something. So you want to do this first to say, okay, this is what I'm looking at and this is what I'm looking at. So okay, sorry about that guys. I had made a mistake. Of course, I'm doing a tutorial video and then I didn't figure out what was wrong. I had to look back at the scripts we use at work. So you can't simply add 3 to that value. You have to set it equal to that value, adding 3. So you can see here, I'm still looking at this end cap. So it's the item.dimensions, specifically the width.value, which in this case is 24. We knew that because earlier we did a debug to show us that information, equals the same thing plus 3. I skipped creating the variable. I mean, you can still do that. It's probably good practice to do that. But for this tutorial, I didn't do it. So I'm going to skip that part. And then I'm doing the exact same thing, but for the depth, because you have to do it to both. So item.update just ensures that that information gets updated. Again, I just put this at the end of every script, and it's been fine ever since. So I want to show myself that information. So after I add it, again, I'm showing myself before I do it to make sure I'm referencing the right thing. And then I show myself after to make sure I'm getting the results that I want. And then I'll roll it out as, okay, this works. There's still issues that obviously come up, but at the very least, I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing. So I'm setting them equal to the value, adding 3. I'm doing an item.update, which is just a method that is already in here. And then I am doing a debug to show myself that information. I'm just doing a space in between the two numbers. I'm not displaying this to a user, so it doesn't have to look nice. So I want to do that for this end cap. So execute strip. Now as you can see, it added 3. So now it is 27 by 19. So with that end cap now oversized, it will properly fit over this 24 by 16. And we do that here because the TDC I think is 1.5 inches on either side. So you add 3 inches to the overall width and depth, and that is how it properly fits. So that was a real world use of this, where I'm physically changing the size of the ductwork to properly fit. So okay, I'm happy with that. And then at this point I could, roll that out. Now let's say we have, I'm going to take both of these. Let's see if it won't let me duplicate. Okay, it will. Let's duplicate it 5 times. Now let's say, obviously a real job, you're going to have all types of parts in here. Now, it's great that I've automated this, but I still have to open every single job and select only the end caps and run the script every single time, right? Because if I were to, let's say I did that and I accidentally grabbed a piece of straight, that might give me an error. Okay. So it's going to display all of them. So let's say I did that. Oh, it did. Okay, I'm sorry. I added 3 to this twice. Okay, so I ran the script on this twice. But you can see I've now accidentally added 3 inches to a piece of straight. This is an issue because if this ductwork is part of the same line, you now have an oversized piece of ductwork, and it's, and then they're in the field trying to hang it, and people are confused, and somehow it gets, to the shop that this was made wrong and it's oversized and it doesn't match your Revit drawing. And because you did this in CAMduct, it's not going to be reflected in Revit, so it's going to be very confusing. You're going to eventually come back to this file and say, well, why did that happen? Blah, blah, blah. So I never want that happening because it's a snowball effect that gets to the field and causes issues on job sites, which you don't want to happen. That typically takes weeks, and it's just a nightmare to deal with. So what I want to do is, let me see, I'm looking at my scripts at work. Okay, so let's go ahead and now what I want to do is use a select and case. This is used a lot in programming. So what I want to do is when I run this script, I don't want to have to sit here and pick out, for every single job, I don't want to have to select only end caps or only straights. So you select it through your script, right? Because that's pretty much guaranteed. It's going to do exactly what you want every single time. assuming you did it correctly. So what I want to look at, I want to do select item.cid. Okay, now CID is what they is how you separate your parts. So an elbow has its own CID, an end cap has its own CID. I think there's a couple different straights with its own CID. Let me see where that information is under the properties. Okay, yeah, so the CID is the pattern. I forget what CID stands for, so you can just look it up. But when you want to select only end caps, only right elbows, only taps, you typically do it this way. So the CID is like the number identifier of that ductwork, or whatever it is, pipe, plumbing. So I see this and I say, okay, I only want to do caps. So what's my CID? In this case, it's based off of pattern 802. So I know if I do select CID, I can do my case. And what did we say, 802? Okay, so now within here, it doesn't matter if I grab the entire job. It's only going to look at any items that have that 802 as its CID. So now I can do whatever I want and not have to worry about affecting anything other than I want it to. So let's come up here. We can go back to what we did earlier. We don't have to worry about displaying it. So let's just grab these. Do item.update. Let's just grab the +3. Delete that. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm only looking at end caps now. Right, and because I've ran this a couple times, I'm now up to 30 by 22. It doesn't really matter for this. So it doesn't matter. I can just grab the whole thing, or just do Control A. So now I want to, so this is going to look at every single one, but it's only going to care about this 802 CID, which is this cap. You can look at this piece of straight. Get where that general. Okay, so that's 866. Yeah, so it's not going to look at that. It doesn't care about it. So now I can do this carefree. I can say it doesn't matter what I grab because I am specifying it to this CID 802. So if this works, it did. I took out the debug, so there's no window. But you can see now it's 33 by 25. And none of these were affected. So that's where the power of this kind of starts to show, because you can do stuff to only what you want it to do to. Again, this takes a lot of testing. Every shop is different. Every place has different, what they want. This is just a basic one. This is what we actually do in our shop. We do have to add 3 inches to ductwork, to end caps, to properly fit. So I just did a quick overview of items. Now you are able to do stuff within your job. Now when you do that, you're just changing stuff in the job, right? The job name, they give you these extra fields, field 1, field 2, job reference, job date. Now when you're doing stuff to the job, it's only the job. You're not looking at each individual item. You want to only affect stuff in the job. Typically you do this for your reports. Right, so let's go ahead and delete this. Let's look at job.reference. Okay, and you can see I am doing that here. That's where this comes from. For this, let me run the script. Okay, so you don't have to, there's nothing to select because you're not selecting anything with items, right? You're looking at the job. So that's empty. I use this for the job name. So if we have a Pfizer job, and I want that to show up on the reports, that tells the shop, okay, this job is for Pfizer, right? This is useful because you can access the file name, right? I'm not sure, I guess it's untitled right now. Oh, that's not, oh, sorry, I did item.file name, I was confused. Job.file name. Maybe because it's untitled. Item.file name. I guess it's job.name. Okay, so it's job.name. Sorry about that. It's not file name. So you can access job.name, which is the name of the file. That's really useful as well because I typically name the file. It's just a bunch of numbers that relate to specifically what it is. So I'll typically use that in the scripting and relay that information onto the reports that the shop sees. Okay guys, I know that was pretty quick. It's a lot to take in. Like everything with programming, there's a million different things you can do. I just wanted to cover the basics, changing, dimensions, that stuff with the debug. I'm looking at not only items but also job stuff because that's also important. You want to be able to access both and do stuff with both. I'm going to do a couple more videos on the CAMduct scripting because there is more things to cover. As you can see, I just have a bunch of random stuff. You can do user prompts. You can change, cut types, material, custom data, specification, item notes. You can change a bunch of different stuff in your job, which is also useful. We do that as well. If you have special characters, you can use those as well because we do. So I'll probably cover that here in a little bit. Thanks.